Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of the World Report with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. The US Supreme Court has rejected a last-minute plea by Tahawwur Rana, clearing the way for his extradition over his role in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. Now, Rana, a Canadian citizen of Pakistani origin, claimed he would be tortured in India due to his ethnicity and religion. However, the court dismissed his appeal. He also cited severe health issues, calling extradition a death sentence. Now, the decision comes weeks after PM Modi met President Trump in Washington, with the latter vowing to send the very evil Rana to India. 64-year-old Rana is known to be associated with Pakistani-American terrorist David Headley Coleman. He was one of the main conspirators of the 26/11 attacks, and his extradition is seen as a big win, in fact, for India's fight for justice. Meanwhile, my colleague Nikunj Garg gets you more on this story.
Last throw of dice, so to say, last desperate throw of dice and nothing else. And this is complete fakery on part of not Tahawwur Rana. All these games and all these last-minute excuses or last-minute pleas that are being filed in the court, lame pleas, a bunch of set of lies, are being filed at the behest of the Pakistani establishment. It's the Pakistani establishment, I have been saying from day one, right from the time when Mumbai 26/11 happened in 2008, that it's the Pakistani establishment that has carried out this attack. Unfortunately, at that point in time, the government of the day was too slow and too timid, if one were to put it, appropriately, to react to the Pakistani establishment in an appropriate manner. However, be that as it may, history will judge that. But the fact remains that Tahawwur Rana is an extension of Pakistani establishment, an extension of Pakistani military establishment, working as a decoy for them. And hence, it is the fear of the Pakistani establishment, the military establishment and the civilian establishment, of getting completely exposed during the process of trial in India, that is forcing them to carry out all kinds of activities and acts, all kinds of tricks and treachery in the book to try and ensure that Tahawwur Rana is not extradited to India. However, after having it been cleared during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to the United States of America, it was only a matter of formality, as I was told by the top sources in the National Investigation Agency, which is now going to prosecute Tahawwur Rana in India in an Indian court.
The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has called for stronger cooperation between India and China, saying the two nations should support and not undercut each other. Wang said both countries must work together to accelerate development and use their ancient wisdom to resolve border tensions peacefully. He added that the ties between the two nations should not be defined by the border dispute alone, and that specific differences must not overshadow overall relations between the two Asian giants. Listen in.
作为两个最大的发展中国家，我们的共同任务是加快各自国家的发展振兴，双方理应相互支持，而非相互消耗；密切合作，而非彼此防范，这才符合两国和两国人民的根本利益。作为两大文明古国，我们有足够的智慧和能力，维护好边境地区的和平安宁，直到找到公平合理的解决方案。要坚持不以边界问题定义两国关系，不让具体分歧影响两国关系的大局。
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that he is indeed traveling to Saudi Arabia next week, where talks between Ukrainian and US officials aimed at ending the war are scheduled to take place. Now, the Ukrainian president has said he will be working constructively with Trump to reach a fast and a lasting peace. Meanwhile, US Ambassador to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, earlier said the idea was to, in fact, get the framework down for a peace agreement. After a summit in Brussels, the Ukrainian president called on European leaders to support steps he's outlined for building a full and fair end to the fighting.
President Zelensky sent a letter to the president. I think the president thought that it was a really good, positive first step. And from that, we're now in discussions to coordinate a meeting with the Ukrainians in Riyadh or even potentially Jeddah. So the city is moving around a little bit, but it will be Saudi Arabia. And I think the idea is to get down a framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire as well.
It appears, with that note, that President Zelensky understands what's at stake, that we are here to help him, that there is one person who can bring those parties to the table, and it is President Donald Trump. The Secretary has understood that from the beginning. This is a united understanding that this has got to end, and these are men who understand what America can do to help that come to an end. And I would believe, with what has been said before, that in fact, if the President and the Secretary believe that President Zelensky is serious and that we can move forward, they have stated, in fact, that we would.
According to UK officials, about 20 countries are interested in joining a coalition of the willing to help Ukraine. At the moment, it is not clear whether every one of the countries would necessarily send troops, but some could provide other support as well. Now, the plan spearheaded by the UK and France was set out by Prime Ministers Keir Starmer and at this weekend's summit of 18 European and Canadian leaders, and would in fact work to uphold any ceasefire in Russia's war on Ukraine. Russia has warned French President Emmanuel Macron not to threaten it with nuclear rhetoric, mocking him in fact as Micron over his height. Now, this comes after Macron suggested France could extend its nuclear umbrella to allies and even proposed sending European peacekeepers to Ukraine. Moscow rejected the idea and said such a move would mean NATO troops entering the conflict. Now, Russia compared Macron to Napoleon and even accused him of pushing Europe closer to the brink of war. US President Donald Trump has said that the country will not defend NATO allies who fail to spend enough on their own defense. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump called it common sense, saying if countries don't pay their fair share, they can't expect American protection. Now, this is not the first time Trump has made this threat, but now, with tensions rising in Europe and especially Asia, it's triggering fresh concerns among Washington's allies. Now, Trump claimed his tough stance has already forced some NATO members to increase defense spending, but reiterated that it's still not enough. His remarks come as NATO marks its 75th anniversary. The CIA has fired several prohibitionary employees under orders from President Trump's new CIA director, John Ratcliffe. These employees had worked at the agency for less than 2 years and were dismissed over alleged performance issues. However, some of them reportedly had good reviews before being let go, raising questions about the real reason behind these firings. Lawmakers in Congress were not informed, which is unusual to say the least, and intelligence veterans warn this could in fact harm national security. Now, the dismissals are a part of Trump's border push to shrink the federal workforce with the help of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Donald Trump has also suspended tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods for now, citing fentanyl crisis and trade talks. Now, US exempts key sectors like potash and autos from 25% levy, but steel and aluminum duties start on the 12th of March. Canada delayed planned retaliatory tariffs until the 2nd of April. Trump has said that full reciprocal tariffs are still possible unless Mexico and Canada crack down harder on fentanyl entering the United States. Across the border, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said that a trade war with the US will drag on as Washington prepares new tariffs on Canadian imports. Now, Trudeau said that Canada will keep its own 25% tariffs in place until the US reverses its actions. Hours later, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called Trudeau a numbskull for his tough stance. Tensions are running high ahead of Trudeau's expected resignation on the 9th of March, Sunday. Now, despite heated words, both sides say talks are ongoing to avoid further economic damage. Over in West Asia, Hamas has said that President Trump's repeated threats against Palestinians are helping Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu avoid honoring the Gaza ceasefire deal altogether. Trump has demanded Hamas release all Israeli hostages immediately, warning the group that it's over if they refuse. In a social media post, Trump also told the people of Gaza, "You are dead if hostages remain in captivity." Human rights groups, meanwhile, have said that this amounts to collective punishment, which, in fact, in turn violates international law. Meanwhile, Egyptian officials confirmed secret talks between US official and Hamas, despite Washington officially classifying it as a terrorist group. Tensions are, in fact, rising as ceasefire talks still remain stuck. SpaceX's Starship rocket, in fact, exploded in space shortly after liftoff from Texas, marking the second failure this year for Elon Musk's Mars mission. The explosion scattered fiery debris over parts of the Caribbean, forcing the Federal Aviation Administration to briefly halt flights at major Florida airports. Videos show debris striking across skies near Florida and the Bahamas after the spacecraft spun out of control. The FAA has said that SpaceX must now investigate the failure before future flights can happen. Now, this latest setback raises fresh questions, in fact, about the timeline for Musk's ambitious Mars plans. According to the Vatican, Pope Francis remains hospitalized with double pneumonia but is stable. For the first time since being admitted nearly 3 weeks ago, the pontiff sent a short audio message thanking people for their prayers. The message was placed during a prayer service at the St. Peter's Square. In the recording, the 88-year-old paused frequently to catch his breath, but the Vatican says his condition has not worsened. Meanwhile, the Pope continues to receive treatment and is undergoing physical therapy as well for his mobility issues. Doctors have said that the next health update will come Saturday. Relentless rains on Wednesday has helped contain the spread of week-long wildfire in Ofunato city of Japan's Iwate prefecture. However, the roads to the mountains remain closed. As of Wednesday, over 4,500 people from more than 1,800 households in Ofunato city have been evacuated. For the first time since the fire began, steady rain was recorded on Wednesday, measuring 17 millimeters by 1700 local time. Now, the city has reported no further spread of the fire was confirmed, attributing this to the rain. The wildfire, in turn, which began on the 26th of February, lasted for over a week. Early wind and rain from a rare tropical cyclone began lashing parts of eastern Australia on Thursday. Now, this as schools were closed, public transport was stopped, and desperate residents got around shortages of sandbags by buying potting mix. Bureau of Meteorology Manager Mott Colopy has said that the tropical cyclone Alfred, it's being called, is forecast to cross the Queensland state coast somewhere between the Sunshine Coast region and the city of Gold Coast to the south early Saturday. And it's time we step into a short break. See you on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the World Report on NDTV, and I'm Arjun.
Today we're signing.
US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve capitalized with seized crypto assets held by the US government. Now, this reserve will hold Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, Solana, and even Cardano. Trump calls it a digital Fort Knox, promising not to sell Bitcoin in the reserve. Now, the Treasury and Commerce departments are tasked with budget-neutral acquisition strategy. Critics, however, warn of conflicts of interest as Trump's family also has crypto ties. Crypto czar David Sachs, meanwhile, estimates early Bitcoin sales cost taxpayers a whopping $17 billion. According to reports, Nissan's board is meeting on the 11th of March to discuss possible successors for CEO Makoto Ushida. Ushida's future is in question after the company's weak performance and the collapse of merger talks with Honda. Potential candidates include Nissan's CFO, Jeremy Papin, and Chief Planning Officer, Ivan Espinosa. However, neither is seen as a clear frontrunner, and the board could in fact very well even install a temporary CEO. Now, the meeting comes as speculation grows that Taiwan's Foxconn may invest in Nissan's EV business as well. Marvell Technology just had its first trading day in 24 years. That's right, in 24 years. The chipmaker stock plunged nearly 20% after its revenue forecast failed to impress Wall Street. Now, Marvell, a key supplier of custom AI chips to big tech, is facing investor fears about slowing artificial intelligence infrastructure spending. Recent breakthroughs by low-cost Chinese rivals like DeepSeek are adding to the pressure Marvell faces. More than 45 million Marvell shares were traded Thursday. That's more than triple the usual volume as investors brace for an AI spending slowdown. Samsung Electronics is reportedly searching for a new North American public affairs head, and they want someone with close ties to President Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Now, the role is currently held by Mark Lippert, who also served as U.S. ambassador to South Korea under Barack Obama. Lippert joined Samsung when Joe Biden was president, but now Samsung appears to be shifting gears as Trump pushes his America First agenda. The company has declined to comment on the report, which was first published in a South Korean newspaper. The U.S. Labor Department is investigating Scale AI, a startup backed by tech giants NVIDIA, Amazon, and Meta. The probe focuses on whether Scale AI is complying, indeed, with fair pay and working condition laws. The company has said that the investigation began under former President Joe Biden. Fairplay has said that it worked with the department to explain its business model, which relies on contributors from over 9,000 cities to label data that trains AI systems like ChatGPT. Scale AI, valued at $14 billion American dollars, insists nearly all contributors are paid on time. And the world of sports, FIFA is considering expanding the 2030 World Cup to 64 teams. A one-off move to mark the tournament's 100th anniversary. The World Cup is already set to grow to 48 teams for 2026, but a new proposal from an Uruguayan official calls for even more teams in 2030. The tournament, hosted across 6 continents, including Spain, Morocco, and Argentina, would become the world's largest cup ever. FIFA president, meanwhile, Gianni Infantino, called the idea interesting and confirmed it will indeed be reviewed. Meanwhile, critics say FIFA is motivated by money and politics, not just football, but the final decision could still be months away. And Neymar in Brazil is back in Brazil's squad after a strong comeback at his boyhood club Santos. The 33-year-old was out for over a year with a knee injury and struggled, in fact, during a brief spell in Saudi Arabia. But since returning to Santos in January, Neymar has scored 3 goals already and even assisted 3 more. Enough to convince Brazil's coach to recall him for key World Cup qualifiers against Colombia and Argentina. With 128 caps and 79 goals, Neymar remains Brazil's all-time top scorer. However, his fitness will be closely watched in the upcoming matches as Brazil fights to qualify. The WTA has announced a first-of-its-kind maternity benefits plan offering players up to 12 months of paid leave. Now, the program, founded by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, also includes grants for fertility treatments, making it the first maternity package available to self-employed tennis players. The WTA has said that more than 320 players will be eligible based on how many tournaments they've played recently. WTA CEO Portia Archer has said that balancing tennis career and motherhood is challenging, and this plan aims to give players the freedom to start families when they choose, without jeopardizing their careers. Former Pakistan coach Jason Gillespie has called his successor Aqib Javed a clown. He's also accused him of secretly undermining both himself and former white ball coach Gary Kirsten. Javed recently criticized Pakistan's constant coach and selector changes after the team crashed out of the Champions Trophy clash without a win. But Gillespie fired back, claiming Javed was lobbying, in fact, for the coaching job behind the scenes. Kirsten also quit just 6 months after his appointment, leaving Pakistan cricket in fresh turmoil. The PCB has not responded to the controversy as of now. King Charles III offered a glimpse into his personal music taste in a new broadcast recorded at the Buckingham Palace. The King's Music Room featured a variety of artists spanning from 1930s crooners to modern figures like Afrobeat star Davido and disco icon Grace Jones. Airing for Commonwealth Day, the broadcast reflects the King's global experiences and his appreciation for music's power to stir emotions and bring people together. The King's Music Room will air on Apple Music 1 at 6 a.m. GMT on the 10th of March.
So this is what throughout my life, music has meant a great deal to me. It has that remarkable ability to bring happy memories, comfort us in times of sadness, and to take us to distant places. But perhaps above all, it can lift our spirits to such a degree, and all the more so when it brings us together in celebration. In other words, it brings us joy. So this is what I particularly wanted to share with you, songs which have brought me joy.
Pamela Bach, an actor and the ex-wife of Baywatch star David Hasselhoff, has died at 62. The Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office reported that she died and determined her death was a suicide. Also known as Pamela Hasselhoff, Bach appeared on The Young and the Restless show and met her future husband on the set of the series Knight Rider. She also appeared on the famed US show Baywatch. Well, that's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful weekend.